Coffee is a great way to perk you up if you're feeling tired. But does it have other beneficial effects to help you lose weight? Hi, I'm Dr. Brian Young, a naturopathic doctor in Toronto. Let's talk about coffee and how it might help for weight loss. Coffee starts with coffee beans. These beans are actually the seeds of berries, so coffee technically comes from the seed of a fruit. Regular coffee is prepared from roasting coffee beans, with darker roasts being roasted for longer than lighter roasts. Green coffee comes from coffee beans that have not been roasted. It has some interesting benefits over regular coffee, as roasting destroys some of the beneficial compounds found in the coffee bean. Perhaps we'll explore that in another video, so subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates in the future. The beans are then ground up into a powder, and water is then mixed or strained through the powder. This liquid extract is what we call coffee. Caffeine content of dark versus light coffee. The coffee beans contain a substantial amount of caffeine, a chemical with stimulant properties that most people will associate with the energizing effects of coffee. Many people also seem to associate darker and stronger tasting coffees with a higher caffeine content. However, caffeine is colorless and flavorless, so you won't really be able to taste or see how much caffeine is in your coffee. Additionally, research finds that roasting also destroys some of the caffeine within the bean, although the amount destroyed is not as significant as some other compounds found in the coffee bean, like chlorogenic acid. Now, this might suggest longer roasting actually decreases the caffeine content. However, roasting the bean also makes it easier for water to extract more caffeine from the beans. So while roasting decreases the caffeine content in the bean itself, the proportion of caffeine you'll be able to extract into your coffee will be increased from the darker roasted coffee beans, meaning you'll likely end up consuming about the same amount of caffeine in a coffee made from a darker versus lighter roast, unless you're also eating the coffee grounds. Other sources also suggest that roasting coffee beans for longer might make the beans swell up and increase in size, making the caffeine content lower per volume. However, coffee beans are typically ground up into a fine powder anyways, so the difference in whole bean sizes shouldn't really affect caffeine content, unless you're brewing coffee with whole unground coffee beans. So to put all this confusion into perspective, the way your coffee is prepared will likely be the bigger determining factor in the final caffeine content of your coffee, rather than the roast of coffee you use. For example, you can increase the caffeine content of your coffee by increasing the temperature of your water, or by increasing the pressure and time that the water is in contact with your coffee grounds. This is why espressos are so high in caffeine. Very hot water and high pressure leaches much more caffeine from the coffee grounds. This also tends to strengthen the flavor of the coffee, which may be why some people might associate stronger tasting coffees with higher caffeine content. However, you could make an espresso with a lighter roast, and the amount of caffeine would not be expected to be too different from an espresso made from a dark roast. So different roasts of coffee may have significant differences in taste and color, but may not necessarily create coffee with significant differences in the amounts of caffeine, assuming they're all prepared the same way. Effects for weight loss. Coffee and caffeine have been both looked at for weight loss in countless studies and articles. Some studies suggest that increased coffee intake may help with weight loss or weight maintenance. So let's take a look at some of the most commonly proposed ways that coffee might help you to lose weight and put them into perspective. Increased energy. Caffeine helps to temporarily increase wakefulness and alertness in many individuals. If you find that caffeine helps you to stay physically active or helps you to increase the intensity of your exercises, a coffee or espresso could potentially help you to lose weight more effectively. Increasing the frequency and intensity of physical activity will improve your body's ability to use fat and increase your metabolism. However, keep in mind that not everyone experiences an energy boost from caffeine, so this effect is not going to apply to everyone. Increased fat burning. Some studies suggest that coffee, particularly the components known as chlorogenic acids within coffee, may be able to increase the usage and burning of fat as a fuel, also known as fat oxidation. There are a lot of proposed mechanisms of how it works, but the overall effect is helping the body to remove and use more fat. Now, many of these studies are done in animals like mice or tested in small groups of humans under very controlled and limited conditions. So while this effect is observed under lab conditions, whether it's significant enough to cause weight loss because of that effect alone is still debatable. Suppressed appetite. There are some sources that claim that caffeine is a potent appetite suppressant, helping people to eat less when consumed. Unfortunately, there isn't any evidence to back this claim. Indeed, research seems to suggest that caffeine has no significant effects on appetite, or may actually slightly increase hunger. However, some people will find that sipping on coffee helps to control their cravings to eat, as the taste and smell of coffee may help to partially satisfy the desire to snack or eat something unnecessarily. Replacing snacks with a cup of coffee may help to reduce your overall intake of food, aiding in weight loss. So this effect might just be related to managing cravings for some people, rather than suppressing appetite, meaning you'll likely have to enjoy the taste of coffee, or it may not do anything for you. Summary. So how do we put all this into practice? Well, firstly, the overall weight loss effects of coffee and caffeine are likely modest at best, meaning if you absolutely dislike coffee, there's no need to force yourself to drink it. You're not missing too much by avoiding it. Also, green or black tea are good alternatives if you can't stand coffee, since they also contain caffeine. I would stay away from caffeinated energy drinks like Red Bull or specialty coffee-related drinks like Tim Hortons Ice Cap or McDonald's Ice Frap, since many of them contain far too much sugar to make them useful for weight loss. But if you enjoy coffee, feel free to enjoy it during your weight loss protocol. It might be prudent to limit the amounts of sugar or sweetener you put into your coffee, especially if you have more than a few cups of coffee per day. You could also use it to help improve your energy and improve the intensity of your exercise. For example, by having a cup of black coffee before you go biking to help you bike for longer. Or you could sip on it to help reduce snacking or overeating. For example, by sipping on coffee in the mornings to help you manage hunger so you avoid snacking before lunch. Or to prevent yourself from feeling so deprived and hungry when lunch finally rolls around, you end up eating a massive lunch to compensate. Do you drink coffee on your weight loss diet, and does it help you lose weight? Let me know about it in the comments down below. And if you found this video helpful, please leave me a like. As before, I'm Dr. Brian Young, bringing you weight loss info on this channel. Subscribe and hit the notification bell if you're interested in learning more, and share it with someone you know who can use the help.